How does this work, as a matter of interest? Is there a format to this, or is it just everyone?
Maybe you have an introductory thing you want to say, and we'll...
Not really.
Well, we can just ask questions, too.
Yeah.
Why
don't you start?
I'll start it. So, with 2 doctors in the family, do you ever compare tenures, and who wins?
No, we don't ever compare tenures. I don't think I've ever had a conversation about... I mean, we certainly have conversations about everything surrounding being Doctor Who. You know, the sort of, I suppose the difficulties it involves in terms, especially in David's case now. With me, it's a case of remembering. But with David, it's just the difficulties of just conducting an ordinary life. You know, conducting a kind of ordinary life, which is kind of, I know it sounds bizarre, what we kind of all aspire to. Not that we don't enjoy, you know, being flattered immensely and, you know, being kind of loved by fans. That's fantastic. But at the same time, you kind of like, in an ideal world, to separate the two things. You know, so you have a kind of private life that is just about, you know, you and your family. And I think that's the way it probably works. That will maintain your sanity better. I think so. We certainly talk about that kind of thing, about, you know, but I don't think we've ever really talked about, well, in my time. I mean, I had told him I'm deeply envious of his special effects. That's about it.
I noticed you're wearing a crocheted celery. Did someone make that for you?
This was given to me, yes, as a gift. In fact, it's 2 pieces of crocheted celery.
Do you hate crocheted celery as much as you hate celery?
No, I like it a lot more. So somebody gave it 1 piece to me, and then somebody came up to me today and went, "I've got a present." "Oh, you've already wearing one." So I said, "Well, I'll wear 2 then." So that's why.
In your observations over the years, have you noticed how things have evolved as far as your fans and Doctor Who fandom?
How the fandom has evolved. You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly I've got a broader base now. That's perfectly true. I mean, I think there was always a hardcore of fans who were always as mad about the programme. I was going to say just mad, but not about the programme, as they always were. But it's certainly, I've noticed, it's got a much broader appeal now. I mean, in the old days, you know, you would never have got small children coming up and saying, "Oh, I love your Doctor." I think they found their way back to the classic Doctors through, obviously, the new series of the Doctor.
And were there classmate people dressed up as the Doctor back in your day?
Actually, there were. In some ways, there were, weren't there? Yeah, there was. In some cases, it seemed almost more. Although that would not be a convention like this. That would be a Doctor Who convention at which you were a guest, and so you would get an inordinate number of people dressed as you. I used to, in the very early days, go in my costume while I fitted into it, but then I stopped, not because I didn't fit into it anymore, but just because you would arrive at a convention, and there would be a number of people dressed as you, so it seemed to render the whole exercise pointless. Some of them were probably better than mine. But no, I think there's always been that hardcore, which kept going even while the programme was off the air. You know, which in a way, as I said yesterday, kept the programme going, I think.
Why do you think it's been so enduring for 50 years of popularity? And increasing now, it seems.
Yeah, well, I suppose the easy answer to that, and I can only speak for Britain, really, is that he's kind of our superhero. You know, he's a peculiarly British superhero, right, in that he's not really a superhero at all. I mean, you have your Superman, your Iron Man, your Batman, your Spider-Man.
And he doesn't even kill anybody, right?
And we have this rather strange person. But they hit upon by accident. It was never a design, I don't think, when they sit down, when Verity Lambert produced that first series, she ever dreamt in a million years it would carry on. But there was something about it, very probably coming off the American, comics, that just suddenly appealed to people in Britain, science fiction fraternity, and they kind of adopted it. They made it their own, and it became very important. It became very important to people. It's going to say, it's almost like a legitimate thing to say that it appealed to the kind of nerdy community. Do you know what I mean? I mean that in the nicest kind of way, but it did. And sometimes I mean, a number of people, and I'm sure they do this about many programs, but not much more so I found about Doctor Who than any other program I've been in. They will say, people will say how important the program was to them, that maybe they watched it at a particularly difficult time of their life or something like that, and it became, the idea of the Doctor became they could identify with the Doctor in some way, or through the companions, and it sort of became very important to them. And I don't know that I've done another program where people have ever said that to me before. So there's something about the character of the Doctor.
Was that regeneration a part of that from the beginning?
No, I don't think as far as I know, after 3 years, William Hartnell got too old and ill to do it anymore, and said, "Well, I want to leave." By which time the program was enormously popular. And I think this is true. I don't know this for an absolute fact, but I think that's when they came up with the idea of the regeneration, because they wanted to continue with the program, but they wanted to have they had to have another actor.
Fascinating idea.
So there was an underground love for Doctor Who in America for a long time, but it wasn't terribly popular. So I imagine you could walk the streets of New York City and not be recognized all
Yes,
the time. Is that changed?
It probably has. I haven't walked that many streets of America recently to know whether it's changed, but certainly if I was recognised in America, and it would happen from time to time, it was usually for all creatures great and small, nearly always,
Interesting.
not for Doctor Who. And if you mentioned Doctor Who to your average American person, they would have heard of it maybe, but they wouldn't really know what it was about.
Okay.
So, but that didn't stop us, having conventions in places where a great number of people would turn up. But it was very much a cult following.
How big a factor was cricket in your life?
My life?
Yeah.
Well, quite a lot really in terms of sport, because I wasn't very classically sporty at school, and I wouldn't have gone into the soccer team or anything like that. But cricket was something that I was actually quite good at. You didn't have to be fantastically sporty to be good at cricket. It's all kind of changed now. Now actually they are very, very fit and very, very. But in the old days, you get quite sort of stocky people being great batsmen and cricketers or bowlers and things. So fitness wasn't held in great sort. I suppose a bit like baseball, where you got the same kind of thing, didn't you?
Right.
It wasn't. The people who played baseball weren't the fittest people in the world. I mean, they could damn well hit a baseball hard, but they weren't really, the epitome of fitness and health. So, and I was not that I was bad, but I just loved cricket. So when John Nathan Turner said to me, we want to make the image younger and sort of, I came up with the idea of cricket.
Does that mean filming Black Orchid, the episode where you played lots of cricket, was like your favorite episode to film?
Well, it wasn't actually my favourite episode, but I did love the cricketing. It's because I actually bowled someone out in shot. They said, well, we'll do this, and then we'll cut. We'll have you running up to bowl, and we'll cut before the ball, and then we'll do a separate shot with the ball hitting the wicket. But I ran up and bowled it in shot, and actually bowled the guy out. So I was very, very pleased about that, and I never shut up about it.
So what was your favorite episode?
My favourite episode, I had two really. For the first couple of seasons, I think it was Earthshock, and then after I'd finished, my British of Androzani was my favourite, because I just felt everything kind of came together. And I joke about, apart from turning into Colin Baker in the end, but it just that we had a great director, we had a great cast. We often had a great cast, but everything, just the enthusiasm of the director and the fact we had a classic Doctor Who writer, and that made a big difference. I mean, I think that the major difference, apart from much better special effects between the old series and the new series, is that whatever you think about the new series, the writing, I think, is going to be quite a few steps up generally from the classic series, because the writers now love the genre, really, and that I think shows. And we've had two producers so far in the new series, and they've both been huge fans of Doctor Who. I don't think we ever had a producer in the classic series who was a huge fan of Doctor Who. They wanted to make Doctor Who popular, but they weren't fans of the genre, I don't think. So I think that's a great plus for the programme. So apart from the special effects, I'm also very envious of the scripts. I mean, I have my little things about it. I think I'd like to see them slow down a bit, ease off on them, wham, bam. Everything has to be sort of...
But
If
with
you-
1 hour episodes compared to you had a lot more time.
We had a lot more time, yes. But the very whole thing about, in television in general over the last few years, and oddly now, of course, there is now a backlash against that. But for years, I would be making programs and they go, the detective thing, we've got to have a body in the first 5 minutes. We've got to have a body in the first 5 minutes. If we don't have a body, people will switch off. And then, we've got to do this by the end of the first part. We've got to do this. And then, of course, suddenly people discovered the killing and discovered that people actually would sit and watch something that was very slow and ridiculously drawn out. And then we got a taste for that. And then we did our version of it. You did a version of the killing. So people suddenly rediscovered that people do, in fact, have a concentration span. We're not all going to get up and walk out of the room if something doesn't blow up in the first 2 seconds. Kevin Spacey made a very good point. He did a lecture I read about at Edinburgh Festival this year, and he made a very good point that when everyone was talking about people now have very small attention spans, he made the point if you give them something big enough, people will sit for an entire day and watch a box set. That's a fantastic attention span.
Yeah.
So you've just got to give them the quality, and they will be there in their droves.
Yep.
But instead of that, sometimes I think
If you can you tell us the process on how you were actually chosen to become the doctor? Did you audition for the position?
No, I was just. I had worked with John Nathan Turner briefly on All Creatures Great and Small. He was a production unit manager, which means he was sort of in charge of the money on that for a while, and then he left to go on to produce Doctor Who. I did another 2 series of All Creatures, and then I left and did a comedy series. And then one night I was just sitting at home, and John Nathan Turner rang me up and said, told me that Tom Baker was leaving Doctor Who, and I didn't really, because it was so far left field, that I just, even when he said to me, Tom Baker's leaving Doctor Who, I thought, why is he telling me this? And he said, how would you feel about being the next Doctor? I think it seemed like there was a silence, because I was very aware that I didn't go, yes, great, fantastic, because I was used to William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, I suppose. And so the idea of me playing the Doctor was a bit, odd, a bit strange. And one of the great things about the new series coming back from me was I no longer seem out of place at all. It seems now like I started a trend.
Yeah.
But I knew kind of when he asked me, even though I hesitated, that in the end I would say yes to him, because you're being asked to play an iconic hero from your childhood, and in the end you can't turn that down, however unsure you are about how it will go.
Did you feel intimidated for following up Tom Baker after his long run?
No, people ask this a lot in America, and I make the point that Tom Baker was Doctor number 4. Over here, for a lot of people, I know Tom Baker was the only Doctor they'd seen,
Right.
and so me coming along was a bit, of a shock. But in Britain, he was simply Doctor number 4. I had grown up with William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, not Tom Baker. I had seen a couple of his stories, but I hadn't really watched the series, only because I got to that age when you kind of, you're doing other things, usually with miniskirts. But you just have other preoccupations in life, and so I was more intimidated by following William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton than I was Tom Baker.
What are your thoughts about the new Doctor?
I think it's a brilliant choice. I mean, you can tell kind of all these names whenever this happens, every single time there's a new Doctor. All these names, the tabloid newspapers say this one is favourite, this one is favourite, and then they announce, no, this person has definitely been offered the part, and you kind of know it's nonsense. But some of the names on the list, you think, oh no, you can't possibly be thinking that. But I just remember when I first heard Peter Capaldi's name, I just remember thinking, that's a damn good idea, actually. That's a really good idea. Simply because I always say